Hi guys, welcome to this video, and today we're talking about chapter 6 flow control in Python. Let's get started.
Right, let's get started. So now you might be wondering what exactly do we mean by flow control? So it's nothing, it's just the order-wise execution of a program. So like the name suggests, you want your control to flow in a manner that you have decided. Like you can put many statements in your program, but you don't want all of them to run at the same time, right? Something you would want to run in a repetition, something you would want to run only if something is true, and so on. So there are various syntaxes to those, and we're going to be covering concepts related to those such as conditional statements, loops, and indenting, nesting lists, break and continue, and so on. All of these topics we're going to be covering up today, which will actually help you understand how we create a flow control in a program. So let's get started with conditional statements.
So the first thing about conditional statements is you must have learned in chapter 4 about flowcharts and pseudocode. So we looked at conditional statements there, but they only had if and else. But in Python, we have a third conditional statement called elif. So we'll get right into that. Let's start with if and else first. So let me write a program which takes in the user's age and checks whether they're eligible to drive or not. So age is equal to int input enter age. Right here I will say if age greater than or equal to 18, because 18 is the legal driving age, print eligible, and then else print not eligible. So what will this program do? The user will input their age, whatever it is, and it will convert that string into an integer type data. Then the if statement checks whether the integer in age is greater than or equal to 18. If it's so, it prints eligible, and if it's not greater than or equal to 18, that means it's less than 18, then it prints not eligible. Let's try and run it. So enter age. Now if I say 19, it says eligible. If I run it again and I say 15, this is not eligible. So that's how if and else works. Now we're just going to move on to if, elif, and else.
Right. Okay, so now I'm just going to create a sub condition inside. Don't comment this. Let's change through this one here. Okay, so suppose we have another if inside this else. Now, if I tell you that now whenever the program enters the else condition, it automatically means that the user age is less than 18. So let's say if age is greater than or equal to 13, then teen. Okay, so now what I've done is I've just created an extra command here, and this print command I can actually put it in such a manner that it prints either way. This if I've just created so that I can say if the person is a teen, it should print teen. Now I'm just going to run this and show you what this means. If I say I enter my age as 16, which is my actual age right now, and then I run it, it says teen and not eligible. Why? Because our age is greater than 13. It is less than 8 because it went into the else, and I'm not eligible to drive. But if I enter something like 10, then it says not eligible. It doesn't print this because this was never true once it entered the else. So now you might be noticing I have merged an if condition inside the else. Now Python provides an easier way to go about this. Instead of having to create another if condition, there's this command called elif. So I'm just going to edit this code right here. I'll say elif age is greater than or equal to 13, print teen, and else print not eligible. So what have I done here? I have basically told my computer first to check, okay, is the age greater than or equal to 18? Yes, it is, print this. Okay, no, it's not. Then check another condition. So what I had written before, I have written the same thing in just a more neat manner, and it prints teen. And then else, if both of these conditions turn out to be false, then this is the last thing it should print. Okay? So now if I run this, you will see that's what's happening. If I enter 16, it just prints teen. So this is what I did. So I'm just going to comment this and give you another example of elif so that you guys get a better understanding of it. Yeah. So now you guys probably know in school there's a grading system where you guys have to like if you get more than 90% you get an A, if you get between 80 and 90 you get a B, like that. So I'm just going to quickly write down the grading system right here. 90 plus is an A, 80 plus is a B, 70 plus is a C, 60 plus is a D, and anything before less than 60 is an E. So now if I were to make a program in which I take the user's marks and I tell them what age they have, if I try to do it with a normal if else, there will be a problem, because if I say marks are greater than 80, or if I enter something like 92, this condition will also become true because marks are greater than 80. So elif will come in handy. I'm just going to code and show you. I'll say marks equals int, but okay. Now if marks are greater than or equal to 90, print A. Now I'll say elif marks are greater than or equal to 80, print B. Elif marks are greater than or equal to 70, print C. Elif marks are greater than or equal to 60, print D. And now finally else, print D. So what I have done over here is I have created separate conditions that if marks are greater than 90, if they are not, then only you should check this condition, otherwise don't. Because if I enter something like 92, this condition will come true and so will all the preceding conditions. So let me try to run this and show it to you. If I enter something like 67, now that is over here. So where will that go? That will give me 80 exactly. But if I enter something like 92, it's not printing all of them because technically all the conditions are true, but this is the only condition that is being checked. So that's what I left. And let's move on to indentation.
Yeah, so let's move on to indentation. So indentation is basically spacing, in simple terms. So in Python, spacing is very important in indentation because we don't use brackets to enclose code within statements, unlike other programs. We use colons. So that's why indentation indicates which part of the code is inside which part of the which statement, right? So anything inside this right here, you can see this indentation. This code is inside my if statement, right? And if I write something outside, this code is outside my if statement. So that's what happens. And now let's say inside my if statement, I had another if statement, right? So if, then this code is inside another if statement, and then this code inside the first if statement.
So like this is what I showed you guys above in the grading system.
So generally, the indentation is 4 spaces, or if you press the tab key in your IDE, you should get your indentation level.
So let's just quickly give we did discuss an example up here. Like if I put an else and then I put an if inside it, the way it's indented, we'll just look at that again. I'm just going to read it. I'm just going to copy paste the program and change it. And then we're going to explain what is inside which condition, which one's not. Now, I'll say else. Now notice, the second I press enter after putting a colon, it gave me 4 spaces. Then I said if age is greater than or equal to 13. Now you'll see there are 8 spaces up here. I print 13 or and here not. Okay, so what I have done here is this print command right out here is got the first indent, which means it's inside the cells. But this print command is getting two indents from the beginning. I mean 8 indents technically, but 2 tab. When you press tab twice, you get this much space. And this is what is inside this if condition. So this is why indenting is important, because it tells the program what command goes in which loop or which conditional statement. So I just copy with this program to show you guys how you would actually go about this.
Yeah, so now let's move on to the repetition. So first we need to talk about why do we use repetition. So let me say I give you a problem, print the first 5 natural numbers. We could go print 1, print 2, print 3, print 4, print 5. But then let's say I give you print the first 100 natural numbers. And that would take a long time to copy paste, type it out individually or whatever, but it would take a long time nonetheless. Now let's say we can use a method where we can just loop a program so that each time it prints that number plus 1. So that's where repetition comes in, and we have 2 loops called for and while. So let's get started with the for loop.
Right. Okay, so like someone just said, printing the first 100 natural numbers would be a bit tedious. So if I were to create a program to, now let's start with small numbers. Let's say we print the first 5 numbers. It's a print 1, it's a print 2. Like this is what you would do if you don't know what loops are. And this is a correct approach, but it's very time consuming. And if I run this, it will give the right output. It will print the first 5 natural numbers like we wanted it to. So it did print the first 5 natural numbers as it is. But we don't want to, like, because now if I tell you print the first 100 natural numbers, you get stuck because you can't, you can actually copy paste it and keep changing the values, but it can get very heavy. So the easier way to go about that is, I'm just going to write the syntax firstly for I in range. And then using this, I will explain you what everything means. So if you see any new code, don't get right. So before I just want to do that, I'm just going to show you what the output of the numbers from 1 to 100. That printed till 99. I'm going to explain you why. So now, what is I? I is a control variable used in the loop. So this is like now I'll come to the general syntax of a for loop. The general syntax is for, then you put a control variable, then in, and then here I've used the range function because you can use anything, and this is what the for loop is. And then whatever you put here, it will repeat. How it will repeat is this value of I takes time 0 to 100, not including 100. Now, why this is happening? Range function, when we introduce this computer very quickly, we're going to discuss how this works. But this is what I is taking all the values which we have just printed, and that it went on 0, 1, 2, 3 all the way till 99. So let's first discuss how you can use for loop with strings.
Talk about the for loop with string. So what is that exactly? So here you see I've written string is equal to cube programming, and then we're going to iterate through this. We're going to traverse the string, right? So for character and string, that means the character here is our control variable. So every time we run this loop, it'll assume the value of whatever position of the string we're iterating through, right? So for the first iteration, we have Q, so character is equal to Q, then P, then R, then O, then G, right? So if I print character, and then I run this, then you can see it prints Q programming each letter line by line, right? That's exactly what it does. And now even if I change the string to hello and run it, it'll print it like letter by letter, right? In separate lines. That's what using a for loop with string is like. The control variable assumes each character of the string through each iteration, and then you can do whatever you want with it.
So usually if I told you to, if I gave you the string hello and I told you to do this, you would probably, if you didn't know what the for loop actually does, you would have to check index 0, then 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5. And the thing is, you don't know how many characters. If I give you say, a random string and you don't know how many characters it has, you actually can't be doing this without having a for loop in it. Like someone said, the ch traverses through the string each and every character. Okay. So now let's discuss how they work with lists. So lists, I'm just going to give you a brief introduction. List one, like I'm just going to tell you, lists are a collection of objects. They can be strings, they can be numbers, they can be alphabet, whatever. And they can be string, anything you want. You can even get float values for that matter. It'll all work. Okay. And now if I say for I in this one, print I. So just the way it was doing in string, it will traverse through every single item in the string. I'm just going to go ahead and comment that. Now once I've done that, you can see every single item in the list was printed separately because this I control variable traversed through the list instead of the string. So it took first 3, then it went to 2, then it went to 1, then it went to A and C, which is a string effort, and then 2.4. And all of these items were given, I took all their values and printed them individually. So this is what traversing through a list is all about. It's very similar to traversing through a string, except it traverses through the items of the list, not the characters.
Yeah. Now
let's move to the range function.
Yeah. Third thing we're going to talk about is the range function. So range is an inbuilt function in Python, which means that you can just call the function without actually having to declare it or define it. So the range function, there are 3 values you can put into this, 3 parameters. So you have your lower limit, let's make that 0, and you have your upper limit, which is 10. The third thing is called a step value. So basically the step value is which one, like if you have 10, a range of 0 to 9, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and you want to print every second value in that, you put the step value as 2. If you want to print every third value, you make it 3, and then 4, and so on. So let's look at this in a loop. So for I in range, let's say I want to print the first 10 natural numbers. So I start with my lower limit is 1, and my upper limit is 11, right? Because it won't print the upper limit, it'll print everything below the upper limit, and it'll print from 1 to 10 and excluding 11. So let me write this and then print I. Now if I run, you can see we print the first 10 natural numbers. Let's say I want to print every second number in this list, right? So let's say I put the step value as 2. Then you can see we only printed the odd number, right? 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. So that's exactly how the range function works, and you can use it in a negative way also. So let's say I make my step value -1.
You have to give the higher lower limit for that.
Wait. Yeah.
That, then, yeah.
They'll run in the reverse order.
So it goes from the first bracket, from the first value to the second value in whatever step you prefer. If I write +1 here, obviously it'll return blank because it can't go from 11 to 1 in a positive order. So now I want to discuss why is it not considering the last value. Like over here, it went till 2, it did not take 1. The reason this happens is the for loop is just designed in such a manner that the second I, the control variable, gets the last value, it stops. The loop is exited. Like it'll go from 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 2. And then now I will take the value 1, don't get me wrong. But the second it does, the commands inside it will not run. So this is worthless for it because now it has attained the value 1, it has broken the loop. That's how they have programmed this syntax. So we should be careful while using it and not, in fact, put a value that we want to include in our thing over here. You want to put one value less or more depending on your step.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the while loop.
Yes, so the while loop, you probably covered that in chapter 4. So essentially while means while a condition is satisfied, then you will run this code, right? So let's start with a simple while loop, and I'll set a variable count is equal to 0, and while count is less than 5, and count, and then count plus equal to 1, right? So what this is doing, I set my initialize my variable count and given a value of 0. Then I created a while loop. So while the value of count is less than 5, it'll print the value of count. So it'll go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And then when count becomes 5, it'll exit the loop, right? Because it has to be less than 5 in this condition right here. So this when I say count plus equal to 1, it's called incrementing the variable. So every time the loop runs, the value of count also increases by 1, right? So let me just run this once. So you can see we printed 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 here. And this is a pretty easy program. So we covered incrementing right now. So that incrementing is basically increasing the value of a variable by 1 every time you run the loop, right? So we have to do that. Otherwise, let's say I don't put this here. Then I run it. Then it's print 0 forever.
0.
Because the condition is forever satisfied. Since count is 0 is less than 5, so it'll print forever.
Okay, so one more way you can actually use a while loop, because this what we have done here is technically, I mean, in some manner you can say it is like the for loop. But one thing you can do over here is create a password system. Like if I say password equals input, enter your password. Okay. And now if I say while password is not equal to Q programming, I'm just going to say that is the password we've given a system. Then password equals input, enter your password. Now before I move on from here, I just want to tell you guys what I have thought about before I did this. Why did I put not equal? Because now I'm saying I'm going to ask the user to enter whatever password, whatever they think the password is. And then I'll say while. Now I've given a Boolean expression. Password is not equal to this very string that I've given it, which has the alphabet Q programming. Okay. So while the password is not Q programming, it should ask again. Instead of just stopping, maybe the user made a typo or something. So always get scope to ask them again. So it'll keep asking again and again and again until the user enters the right password. And once the user has done so, I can just print you have unlocked. Now this will keep running. It doesn't have a fixed number of times to run. Like if I enter Q, no, okay, is it QP? No, it's not. But if I enter Q programming, it says you have unlocked, because now this condition became false. Password became equal to Q programming. So it exited the loop and printed whatever's outside. So while loop has various applications, and to some extent the password system that you might have seen are based on this. The only difference is they use various databases to collect passwords and so on, and we don't have to get into that. But this is the basic logic behind it. So this is like something one should take note of going about the while.
Yeah. So we just covered incrementing a little while back, so you can skip that for now. Now let's look at an infinite loop. So we also looked at that when the it printed 0 infinitely. So what does that happen? So if I say while true, print true, what's going to happen here? So here it checks whether the condition is true, right? Where this true statement is. So if I just simply put the Boolean true, it'll always be true, right? Since it can never be false. So it'll happen here if when I run this, it'll just print true forever. Just stop that once. Yeah. So it'll print true forever until we break the program or we add any code, which we'll cover in the last section in break and continue. So that's what an infinite loop is. Basically, it runs infinitely because the condition here is always satisfied, right? So now let's move on to nesting.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. Now in nesting, we actually talked about nested conditionals before when I was explaining you that, but then I told you an alternative for that is elif, so it's okay. Now you can even use nested loops. How? So if I say I'm just gonna write a program here for I in range 0 to 3. For j, see I and j are the most commonly used variable by the Python community. You can use whatever else you want. 0 to 5. print J. Okay. So now what is this gonna do? Now what I think it's gonna do is it's first going to every time first I will take the value 0. Then it'll run this loop 5. It'll run print J 5 times because it's 0 to 5. Okay. Then I will take the value 1 and run it 5 more times. Then I will take the value 2, then run it 5 more times. So it'll run a total of 15 times. Let's run it to see how this goes. That's what it did. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is a total of 15 print commands that we have over here. So why this happened is because we nested a loop inside a pre-existing loop. That every time this loop runs, it should run another loop with it. Now this may seem a little confusing to you, but try to understand it this way. If I forget about this for I in range, what will this for j in range command do? It'll just print 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Now imagine I've just printed this 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 thrice. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. I've just run this thing thrice. So this is the main idea of nested loops, and they are very widely used. So yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah. So that was nesting a loop. You can look at one small example for this again. So you can also run while loops in nesting, right? And you can also run if statements while nesting. So let me say I want to create a small password. So if I create a set of characters equal to, let's say, random letters, right? So the space. And then I create a set of digits. Yeah, so when I create this set of digits, and I have created a set of digits and characters, right? So what will I do? If I want to combine them together, let's say for I in character and for I in for j in digits, print I plus j. And then we will not leave any separation between them, right? So at the end, right? So we put n is equal to this. Now when I run this, you can see if you had a pretty complex password here, right? So I can obviously reduce. So if I just reduce this to this and make this, then it'll print a simpler password here. So that's one application of this. Now we're going to move on to the final segment, which is break and continue.
Okay, so now let's say you created a loop, but for some reason that maybe you want the loop to run until I'm just going to give an example right away for I in range 0 to 5 print I. So ideally what this loop would do is it'll just print all the numbers starting from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Now let's say I take a number from the user, okay? Now I'll say that whenever I'm actually gonna give a bigger range here, let's say like 10. Now I'll say that whenever the number entered by the user is reached, then it should just stop the program. Obviously the loop is supposed to run until 10, but suppose I'm just gonna tell you how this is gonna work. If I equals to, let's say the x, which is the number that your user entered, break. Otherwise print I. So now what is this program doing for us? I have taken a random number from the user from 1 to 10, and usually the loop would run all the way till 9. But I said the second this I becomes equal to whatever the user entered, break the loop. Breaking the loop would mean that it will go outside the loop. So I'm just going to put a sample print command here. This is outside the loop. Because the break command will stop everything running inside the loop, and this print command that I've put right out here, see the intent carefully, is outside the loop. So if I go ahead and run this, if I enter my number as 6, so it will go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? The second I becomes equal to 6, it won't. You can see that. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 5. The second I became 6, it broke the loop. Nothing else is working. And this print command will run either way because it's not part of the loop in the first place.
Yeah.
And
so now another thing we can do is we can also use a continue statement. So let's say I want to emit one value only from this loop, right? So if I say, if I want to print the first word,
are you using this?
yeah?
Are you using this loop? This one?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
So let's talk about the continue statement now. So in the continue statement, let's say I want to emit one value from a loop. So let's say I'm already printing the first 100 natural numbers, right? So if I say for I in range 1 to 101, print I, right? Let's say I want to omit one value. Let me take it as 15. So now if I say if I is equal to 15, continue. So what does this do basically? Let me just put this here. So come underneath that. So what will happen here? So I have I in the range 1 to 101, and then when I comes to 15, since I is 15, it'll run this continue statement. What does the continue statement do? It'll skip this particular iteration of the loop, right? So the break statement completely terminates the loop, but the continue statement skips one repetition of the loop only. So when I run this, what happened here? Yeah, so when I run this, you see we have this, and then the number 15 has not been printed here, right? So that's basically how the continue statement works. So there's a difference between break and continue. Break is used to terminate the loop entirely, and continue is used to just finish skip one iteration of the loop. So that's the end of this video. We hope you learned something today, and go check out our website. We have much more over there. We'll be posting more content and some tutorials online. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel and like this video. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.